Okay, Tuesday. Moshe told the Jewish people, you must give him the first of your grain, wine, oil, and the first fleece of your sheep. Today's Torah portion talked about the responsibility to provide for the Kohen. He has no heritable property because he's doing service on behalf of all the Jewish people. So you got to give. There's enshrined in law different gifts you give, whether it's from, you give him grain, you give him wool, you give him. There's housing. Okay. The difference between food and clothing is that the nutrients we absorb from food nourish each part of our body differently, in accordance with the needs of that particular part. Clothing protects and warms the body in general. Right? So food breaks down and goes to every limb and blood vessel as it needs. Clothes is more, it covers everything. So food is therefore a metaphor for our intellect and emotions, which operate through specific organs, the brain and the heart. Clothing is a metaphor for our will and delight. So our will and delight, which influence our body as a whole. Thus, when the Torah tells us to give the first of your grain, wine, oil to the priest, it is allegorically referring to our specific faculties. So when it tells us to give the first fleece of your sheep, which clothing is made, it's referring to our general faculties. So we have, in other words, we have an inner priest. That's our divine soul, right? Everything that exists in the macro exists in the micro. Your inner priest is your divine soul, the part of you that is wholly dedicated to selfless service to God and your mission. By devoting the first and best aspects of our intellect, emotion, will, and delight. So again, the Torah is saying give food and clothing to the inner Kohen, which means give food, give good, your the first Torah thoughts of your day should be prayer and Torah. The first of your clothing, meaning the first of your will and your desire, those should be given. You should think, how do I make my soul happy today? You got to, the first thing you got to think about. Then you enable it to sanctify yourself and the world in general. Okay, the Sefer Mitzvahs, the daily mitzvah for Tuesday. Couple mitzvahs. The 114th negative mitzvah in the book of mitzvahs is that we're forbidden from shearing wool from sanctified animals. The 55th positive mitzvah is we're commanded to sacrifice a lamb for Pesach on the Paschal lamb on the 14th day of the month of Nisan. The 115th prohibition is we're forbidden from slaughtering the Paschal lamb when in possession of leavened bread. You have to get rid of your chametz before you do the Paschal lamb. The 116th prohibition is we're forbidden from leaving the fats of the Pesach sacrifice, Paschal lamb, without burning them, causing them to become invalid as leftover nosar. Wonderful day to you all.
What was the first mitzvah that you read? Something about a sheep? The first, we can't take the... It
says you can't, once you designate an animal to be a sacrifice, you cannot use its wool for mundane purposes.
Okay, so that wool is not lost. It's not, but it's used by the Kohen.
I'm not sure. That's a separate thing. That was in Chumash. Not sure.
Gary's got a comment.
No, I